So then we finally got our chance to meet the Honda Elevate in person, and this was sort of a dating app match turning into a real life date moment wherein you're hoping that the pictures match what the person looks like in real life, and you're also hoping that their bios are as intelligent as the real person. But that does not exactly seem to be the case with what's happened in the Honda Elevate, and I think a lot of it has to do with the car itself, how long it's been anticipated for, and how sky high the expectations from it were.
First things first, the expectations, the hype is real. And honestly, Honda deserves this hype, it deserves all this anticipation. But we've got to be honest with you. So, when we first saw the Elevate, whatever we thought, whatever we touched, felt, discussed, it just felt like another SUV in the segment. The USP as such doesn't really scream or shout at you at first glance.
True, and it's not that the SUV has made a bad first impression. It's actually made a decent first impression. I do like it. It's just that it's not made as strong an impression as maybe a lot of us were expecting. And let's break it down by the variables that have gone into that sentiment, right? And the first bit there is the hybrid, or rather the lack of it. When we were looking at the presentation, there was a slide that said engine and transmission, and we saw there the 1.5 i VTEC as we expected. But next to that engine image, there was a blank space, and I was like, yeah, that is where they're going to show the hybrid. But instead, they showed the power and torque figures of the 1.5 i VTEC being identical to the Honda City, and then they showed the transmission options: 6-speed manual, 7-step CVT with paddle shifters, again the exact same as the Honda City, and then nothing.
But Honda has a good reason for doing this, okay? And I see their point of view as well. So Honda's saying that they would much rather make the shift to offering electric directly instead of offering a hybrid stopgap. In fact, they've confirmed on record that by 2026, within the next 3 years, that's the word they used, we will have an Elevate EV for sure. And the reasoning for this seems to be the tax structure that India has for hybrid versus petrol. So on an electric vehicle, the tax is what, 5%? For a car in this category, a petrol car in this category, you'd be looking at paying 45%, whereas a hybrid is at 43%, if I'm not wrong. So these numbers kind of don't make sense on a larger scale to Honda India, so they'd much rather offer an electric. The other thing that I think
factors in with this,
is what Maruti Suzuki and Toyota had the foresight of doing, and that was localizing their hybrid components, right? Honda, for the City EHEV, they have to import the hybrid components, which drives the price up a fair bit. In case of the Maruti or the Toyota, you pay a 2 or a 2.5 lakh rupee premium for the hybrid. But in the City's case, you're looking at paying 4 or 4.5 lakh rupees for the same technology. And it doesn't make all that much of a financial sense, because this kind of money you expect to pay when you're shifting from ICE to EV and not ICE to hybrid.
Correct. And there's another reason which I think Honda is not really going to cop to. And that is allocation of the hybrid powertrain for Honda cars in India. Because I think they underestimated the kind of demand that the Honda City hybrid would get. And such is the situation with supply chain constraints that they simply cannot get enough hybrid powertrains to offer in the Elevate in the first place. All you're going to get is waiting periods, not actual deliveries, and that is something we're already seeing happening with a relatively low volume product like the City hybrid.
Right. The City hybrid is running a 1-year back order, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. And you know, for what it's worth, we've mentioned before also, Honda does hybrids better, and it breaks our hearts that it's not available. But that being said, the 1.5 i VTEC is still a very good engine, and we know this, right? It's smooth, it's easy to live with, time-tested reliability, and especially with that CVT, it's going to be an excellent city commuter. That much I'm pretty sure of. And in the company of the other naturally aspirated 1.5s you have in the segment, all across the segment except for
the VW and the Skoda.
This definitely holds its own in that company. But let's not forget, the Honda Elevate is not a subcompact SUV. It's a premium SUV. It's a compact SUV. And in the space, when you're getting in the sub 4 meter SUV so much variety, there's none with the Elevate. And if you weren't going to give a hybrid, why not a turbo? Why not give variety? Why not give choice?
I'm glad you brought the fact that it is supposed to be a premium SUV, and Honda's always been known for having that bit of snob value, having that premium edge to all of their products. And it's okay if you don't want to give me a turbo, give me more features.
They counter on that front, and that is somewhere also where we're seeing not much by way of headlines, right? Because there's no ventilated seats, there's no heads-up display, there is a sunroof, but it's not panoramic. There's no, I think there's a lot of features that they're also missing from the Honda City itself.
Yeah.
Like one-touch power windows for all 4 windows. That's something that even VW Group has skipped out on the.
Very odd times we live in, and then there are a few small bits that I won't really attribute to cost cutting, but they are quite weird misses that way, especially in 2023. For example, the Elevate has 2 USB ports up front, both of them Type A. It's got a 12-volt socket and a wireless charger. The rear does not have any USB ports at all, and there's a 12-volt charger there. Another odd miss, the center occupant at the rear does not get an adjustable headrest.
Or 3-point seat belt.
Yeah, you just get a lap belt.
But that being said, it's not like the features list is Spartan. People are making it out to sound like that. That's not the case.
It's not because I think we should put this on record. The Elevate isn't really missing anything drastic or dramatic. What it does have should be enough for most people that are looking to shop in this segment. So the top spec Elevate that we saw at the unveil, it had a sunroof. Yeah. It had a new 10.25 inch touchscreen with wireless Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. Really smooth to use also. It's got a wireless charger. It's got an 8-speaker sound system. It's got that beautiful semi-digital dash from the Honda City. I actually prefer it to full digital displays. Very seamless integration, and it's got ADAS as well.
True, and that's the core point here that needs to be understood, right? A lot of these features may seem derivative from the City, because they are, and that is because the Elevate is essentially a city SUV. Yeah. And while it may not have a lot of halo features coming out, what it can and probably should derive is the value proposition with the City's features list. Because even if you look at the base City SV, that is a well-loaded car. It is something you can drive out of a showroom happily. And if they can manage to deliver a similar sort of value proposition with the Elevate, wherein the lower variants are also well equipped, then you may not have much by way of headline features. But then you don't need to necessarily move to the headline variant to get most of what the car has to offer in the first place.
Yeah, so what he's essentially saying is you don't really need to pay the big bucks to what you would call a fully loaded car, right? But what stands out for me in the Elevate experience is just how sensible and practical it is. It is genuinely one of the core strengths of the Elevate, and sadly that is not something you can put in a brochure or in a marketing material. You have to explain and experience, right? Great amount of storage spaces throughout the cabin. The boot is very spacious, 458 liters. You get a 60-40 split seat, and you talk about the rear seat space. Now, since he said it is a city SUV, rear seat space has always been a strong point with the Honda City. And the Elevate also simply delivers on that front. I mean, Tushar, all 6.5 foot of him, fits behind Tushar, who's 6.5 foot.
True, because in this segment, we've said this, God only knows how many times, right, that you can fit a 6-footer one behind the other. We've repeated this line enough times. But in the Elevate, while you can do that, what's amazing is the amount of space left after that. And that is also what factors into me being able to sit behind my own driving position. And of course, it's going to be snugly, so I don't have much by way of knee room left. But when you got 13 feet of human being. Yes, that's why I became a journalist. So 13 foot of human being across like that, it is still capable of managing that. And that's not something I can say for just about any car in this budget space. You'd have to go to the Harrier Hector segment for that comfort level to be brought in. And it's not just about the leg space, the headroom available. I can rest my head on the rear headrest and still have headroom to spare. And that is a benefit of the City platform being SUV-fied. Because when we saw the move from the 4th to the 5th generation of the Honda City, one thing we noticed in a form of a reduction is headroom. In this case, that's been corrected.
Absolutely. And since it is based on the City, another thing I'm glad it borrows from the City is just how well built it feels on the inside. The kind of plastic they've used, the texture, the wooden accent on the dash, the leatherette padding that the dashboard has, the door pad has, the center console has, even the quality of the upholstery that's on the seats and the steering wheel, it's top shelf for this segment. Yes, it does not have those clicky knobs with that cool background lighting that the City has on its AC controls, but it's okay, I'm not really complaining. The design is clean, the design is minimal, that tan black combination is beautiful. I'm surprised more manufacturers don't really opt for this rather, and it just works, I feel.
True. And as for the design, let's say it is quirky and you can see bits and pieces of different cars there. For example, me personally, when I look at that front grille, it does remind me of sort of a mini Honda Pilot.
Yeah, he's a pilot, great!
And if you look at it from the side profile of the rear three quarters, you'd understand why a lot of people are drawing parallels with the Nissan Magnite. But here's the deal, it is still a very neutral design. It's not particularly polarizing, and that is something that sort of lends it. Maybe there's that one element of the grille being so large that I can imagine, the Karol Bagh modifications coming in and you're going to have a large Rolls Royce.
Honda Cullinan.
Basically, that's
Karol
what's
Bagh, do it.
that you don't need to tell them, they're going to do it anyway. So that is something that's going to be standing out as a slight quirk, but I wouldn't call it a polarizing design. It is offend no one. There is something in that though wherein I don't feel the Elevate, despite its large dimensions, it's actually larger than some of its competitors in this segment. It doesn't have the same rugged appeal with the kind of body cladding and the application of that as some of its competitors. And there are some bits that stand out as just ungainly, like that exposed keyhole underneath the driver's door handle.
Yeah, that seems unnecessary, but on the whole, there are a few words that come to us repeatedly when we sit down and discuss the Elevate, right? Sober is one of them, neutral is another, premium is another, and that's no bad thing. I mean, the YouTube comment section across videos is just full of people with pitchforks, knives and whatnot, going at Honda saying, oh, give us more features, give us this, give us a turbo. But what it does have, I think, is genuinely enough for the common man who's looking at buying an SUV for his family. I want an SUV that seats 4 or 5 people, has a comfortable ride, has good space, good boot space, an engine that's tried, tested, reliable, and a good badge. The Elevate ticks all of those boxes.
Agreed. But there's one very important catch to all of this, and that is the pricing. It has to be reasonable, because we know that because this is going to be a city SUV, there's going to be a premium for that SUV body style. That premium cannot be over the top for one very simple reason, and that is Honda. You have not given us an upgrade to the Honda City. This is an SUV parallel to the Honda City, and that's fine. That is what the Taygon is to the Virtus. That is what the Kushaq is to the Slavia. That's fair. But because you're not adding much a major increment in terms of the value proposition, if we say the Honda City right now is priced at 11.6 to about 16 lakh ex-showroom, I'd say 12.5 to about 17-ish lakh ex-showroom for the Elevate is a reasonable price, wherein all the things we've mentioned come together to make sense as a complete value proposition.
So that is what Tushar and I think about the Honda Elevate. We really wanted to get you a video from the ground, but we did not want to get carried away and immediately form opinions. And we thought we'd sit down, discuss and give you a detailed insight into what we thought about the Elevate. But you tell us what you think about it in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, all of that. Call us names in the comments if you have to. Both of us will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.
Bye-bye.